Hey, Bright Lights, it's Angela, and welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. If you are new here, I'm an architect who has spent my whole career studying design for well-being, something known as salutogenesis. And whether you are a design professional like me, or you're just somebody who's looking for strategies to improve your well-being and you're kind of going, I never thought about the design that surrounds me every day, all day, in every single environment I move through. This is the place for you. You get the benefit of my career's worth of research without all of the stuffy academic language and struggling through that information. You get the benefit of my career's worth of research broken down to make it really easy to understand. We go one concept at a time so that you can really make the most of this information. The more I study this, the more I realize just how powerful design is. I'm not just saying this because I'm an architect, it's true. And I really have made it my mission to make it easier for people to understand why design is impacting them the way that it is, but also to give you easy to use tips so that you can begin to make changes in your space that will hopefully make your life a whole lot better. And the way that I do this is I've created a deck of cards that are centered around this work in salutogenesis. And the deck has two parts. The first part are fundamental concepts of what creates well-being, or the opposite of that, pathogenic spaces. The other part of the deck is broken up into 5 theories that my research indicates are fundamental aspects of salutogenesis. Now, I'm also a feng shui practitioner and am really particularly interested in melding together the research that the ancient Chinese were doing just through the power of observation and developing this whole system of placement and flow to space with what modern research is telling us. So in my deck, for each aspect, there is a color and an element from feng shui that is associated with it. So very quickly, we have sense of coherence, I understand, which is associated with the metal element. Self-efficacy, I can, which is associated with the power behind the fire element. I shelter, which is prospect and refuge, that grounding, calming, heavy earth energy. Biophilia, which is associated with the wood element and interconnectivity of life. And finally, we have relaxation response, the resetting of our parasympathetic nervous system, I restore, which is associated with the healing aspect of the water element. So each week, or in this case, the month, because this is your reading for January 2025, I draw a card from each of those two sections of the deck. And that is why you will definitely want to like and subscribe to this channel, because you don't want to miss an episode. Since I'm randomly drawing cards, I can and will draw the same card twice. Sometimes that's because it's really important that we hear a certain message. And that's already happened in some of my readings where certain cards just want to keep popping up, even though there's over 60 cards in the entire deck. However, the two cards I draw together are a unique combination. So you're going to learn something different by hearing me talk about that card with the companion card that I drew, even if you've already heard me talk about that card. So the card that I drew from the fundamental concepts is resources to cope. And as you can see in the illustration that I developed, we've got what looks like it was once maybe a house of cards. We can see some remnants of that, but it's being blown away. And that is really the core of this idea. When we have resources, we have resiliency and we can withstand adversity. We can also thrive in life, which is what we really want to do, not just survive, right? And when we do not have resources, and I think you could say a house of cards doesn't particularly have a lot of resources, it's very easy for the least little thing to create havoc in our lives. Now, what am I talking about when it comes to the environment around us? I'm talking about things that can either be replenishing for us or can feel like they are very stressful, very draining for us. So think about your home. Think about spaces that are relaxing, where you go to recharge, things that feel cozy to you versus things that maybe feel hectic, like that pile of papers and mail on the kitchen table that you just never seem to have time to go through. And we all know that paper breeds, it is not your fault. However, it is creating chaos in your life, or that closet that every time you open it, something falls out. Those are things that are depleting your resources. Other things that could be depleting your resources are things that need to be repaired, your neighbors having a loud party when you're trying to sleep, somebody starting a home improvement project at exactly the wrong time of day, or just a siren going by, or other kinds of chaotic things in the environment. Think about your place of work and what in it can either feel like it is helping you to focus and concentrate and be your best self versus what might feel chaotic to you, like endless pinging of email or texts or message services, or too many meetings, or too many demands, or people interrupting you all the time, and how that takes away your resources to cope versus when you've got that time to focus and relax. And I bet as you start to think about it, it is not just the events or the people in your life, but you start to see how the environment around you is contributing to that. Because an environment with good acoustics will make all of the noise around you be less bothersome and maybe even filter some of it out. Having opportunities to move around or to work in different settings can be much more relaxing. Having a view out of a window or the ability to go outside and move around, all those things can really help to reset the same work, doing the same job, but just give you a different environmental setting for it. And we also want to think about resources in terms of environmental anchors. So, this is a concept from feng shui, but it really does hold true, right? Every object around us has some kind of symbolism for us, whether that comes from our culture or our religion or a personal experience we've had that causes us to have a certain association with an object. And having that object that has negative or stressful associations in our space all the time can make us be reminded that we have a negative association, can cause more stress, can bring up bad memories, or having something positive can bring up a positive memory or make us feel good. So, those are the ways we want to think about environment. And this matters not only for the fact that we want to have more resources, but we also want to think about people who may need that a little bit more. I'm talking specifically about members of the neurodiverse population who are especially sensitive to environmental conditions that most of us don't notice. However, I would assure you that you are noticing them subconsciously and your body is having a stress response. So when we can think more about what the needs are of populations that may be more sensitive to their environment and designing with that in mind, we're actually providing a more restorative environment for everyone. Now, the second card that I drew comes from the sense of coherence part of the deck. So, again, that's the metal element represented by the orange rim around the card. And it is analogous mapping. So, the image on the card is a very stereotypical, most basic symbol of a house that's universally understood by children, and it shows up that way. Just the gable roof, the triangle over the square with the 4-pane window, and then just some images that might be typically associated with home, like the table where we have meals, where we sleep, that cup of coffee in the morning, the barbecue. So essentially, analogous mapping is about the process of identifying similarities between two situations and using that information to kind of fill in the blanks about the environment with which we are less familiar. So this can look like, say, you're on vacation and you need to go to the grocery store. Now, you have never been in this store in your life, but you've been in other grocery stores. And to the extent that it is like all other grocery stores, you know the produce will be in the front, that the meat and dairy will be in the back, that the dry goods will be in the middle. You've got a pretty good sense of not only where to go and what to do, but where to find things. And that's because you are using that analogous mapping function in your brain. And this is done a lot in retail and restaurants where there is theming, and you'll see it not only in the decor, but even background music or the way that the products or food selections look, the way that the staff are dressed. They're basically creating an immersive environment that they are hoping is a positive association for you, their customer, so that you will vibe with that and it will feel aspirational and you will want more. Now, this is often done unconsciously in a lot of institutional environments. So think school buildings, courtrooms, the BMV, hospitals, any kind of institution. There's kind of a space language there too, right? And usually it isn't as positive as maybe would be hoped for because we've had bad experiences or heard bad things from others about their experience in some of these institutional environments. So, what do we do then with analogous mapping if it's negative? Well, this is why you will start to notice that a lot of waiting rooms, for example, kind of look like your favorite cafe. There may even be beverages served or snacks. There are things done to deliberately insert associations with places that you feel are more positive, to kind of jar your brain, mix it up a little bit, and change your bias to what you're expecting in the space, and hopefully make you see it in a more positive light. If you are a designer, again, you can consciously think about that. Is there a way that we want someone to feel or behave in a space that we can put things in that space that they're going to associate with feelings and behavior patterns that we want them to have, but that come from somewhere else, somewhere that they have a positive association? And that's going to change not only how they feel while they're in the space, but how comfortable they are about knowing where to go or what to do. So when we put these two cards together, resources to cope and analogous mapping, what we can start to see is that we can choose to deliberately put resources into the spaces that we inhabit that will be restorative to people and empowering to people. And especially those resources can deliberately use analogous mapping to make an association with either a positive past experience or an experience where how to behave, where to go, what to do is well established. So now there's confidence in the part of the person who is there. They don't have to use as much energy trying to figure something out or be as vigilant as we tend to be when we're in a space we've never been before because we don't know what to expect. Now they kind of know what to expect, whether they realize it or not. So those are our themes for January. And I think it is a really great pairing of resources to cope with analogous mapping. I would love to hear how you are using this, whether it's in your own personal space, in changes that you've made on behalf of others, or for clients that you are designing a project for them. So please be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments and make sure that you absolutely like and subscribe so that we can grow the channel, get more people talking about this, and more people aware of the power of design to make a difference. So thank you so much for listening and have a great January.